Okay, everybody, what I'm going to be showing you how to make today is a coil built bowl. My coils are already made and ready to go. This is going to be the base of my bowl. This is a leather hard slab that I put a little curve into because I want my bowl to be a little rounded on the bottom. And I have all my tools here. I have my wooden modeling tool that I use to blend my coils. I have a flexible rubber rib to help smooth, an X-Acto that I use just for cutting clay. And this is for scoring. I call it my little rake. You can also use a serrated rib. Got a little bit of slip here with a paintbrush, a sponge that's not like soaking wet, it's just a little bit damp, and a cup of coffee because nothing good gets made in the studio without coffee on hand. Before I start making anything, I always like to make a little quick drawing of what I'm doing, just to sort of keep in mind like what I'm aiming for design-wise, just to keep myself on task. Here's a quick little drawing. And I do this because sometimes I forget what my goal was. I get a little carried away. It turns into something else and I'm done and I'm like, oh, that's not what I intended to make. It's not the worst thing, but I like to keep it in mind. So what I'm doing first here is I'm scoring the edge of my slab here. I'm going to go in both directions. And the reason why we do this is anytime we're attaching fresh soft clay to something that's leather hard, we want to score first. And I'm going to add a little slip. This helps create like a bond between the fresh clay and the drier clay. So anytime you're attaching clay that's at two different levels of wetness or dryness, there's going to be a little problem. They're not going to want to blend necessarily, so you create a little layer in between to sort of help that process of bonding. So I'm just going to start by attaching this coil, and I'm pressing very firmly and I'm kind of giving it a little pinch too. And I'm also aiming to sort of overhang the bottom just a bit, the bottom slab. And I do this because it's easier to blend it in later if I have that little overhang there. And I will show you what I'm talking about when we get there. So I'm cutting that so that when I go up to my next level, it's sort of making a little hill for it, so I don't have an abrupt stop there. I'm just going to continue here and I'm going to make 2 layers of coils. Again, I'm pushing firmly into the bottom, sort of pinching. I always like to work with coils that are just a little thicker than the walls that I actually want to wind up with. So I want to have some give, something to work with. If I want to do some carving, I want plenty of clay. Okay, so here I have 2 nice walls, and I'm going to start by using this modeling tool, and I'm going to smooth out the top, just so we get that to blend in, and then smooth this part right here. So if I have a little overhang here, here, I have a little clay to grab onto. And I'm just going to start by smoothing these coils in. Now I have my hand on the inside to sort of create some pressure so that when I'm pushing my tool against the clay, it's not just collapsing. I have something to push against. And that makes the smoothing process much easier. I personally find this stage very satisfying, turning these two coils into a nice wall of clay. And if it's like, you know, if the wall isn't straight or if it's not going in the direction that you want right away, don't worry about it. And this is, again, part of the reason why we work with a little extra thick coil, so we can bend the clay and move it around to where we want it when we're in a more refining stage. Right now we're just kind of throwing this thing together. Now there's a little like slip that's squeezed out, and I'm just going to take the sponge and just sort of wipe it up. I don't really want anything like wet or slippery when I'm trying to do this. It can make things harder to manage. So I'm going to start on the inside by really making sure that this first coil is attached nicely to the floor. We definitely want a really solid, strong connection there, because the last thing anyone wants is a bowl with like a little crack or a little leak anywhere really, but especially along the bottom. I'm just gonna give that a little extra there. Now personally, I like a really nice round, smooth transition between the floor of a bowl and the wall. I don't want something that's really hard, you know, because I'm thinking about function. My spoon is going to be scraping along here, and I don't want it hitting like a hard edge where my spoon can't get out that last little bit of my favorite curry or soup or whatever I happen to be eating. Or ramen. This is a ramen bowl, after all. Okay, so once I'm done that, I can take my rib. I'm going to do a little smoothing here. And I'm smoothing, but I'm also compressing the clay, making sure that those coils are firmly together. And being friends, not pulling apart from each other. And then the same thing on the inside. First I'm going to really work on this bottom. I'm going to go around a few times. I just really want that to be strong. You can hear the sounds of the neighborhood in the background. There's some construction going on next door. They're building a little live-work loft art space right next door, which will be interesting. Cars going by. I am in the downtown area of Vallejo here. A little action going on. So as you go, you might notice like, oh, those two coils don't seem like they're really attached very well. So you can certainly take your tool, do another pass on that, smooth it out again. Okay, so now I'm ready for my second layer of coils. So this one I don't need to slip and score because this clay is just as soft as this clay. So we don't need to worry that there's going to be attachment problems. I'm just going to start out by doing that. So when I come around, it would be easy to just move on to the second row. Again, pushing firmly. Squeezing a little bit. Now, if you run out of coil, I didn't quite make it to the end, don't worry. It's not a big deal. What I'm going to do is just cut a little angle there. I'm going to grab some extra coil I have here. I'm just going to cut a similar angle here, and I'm just going to stick it on. And I'm good. And then I'm gonna smooth out that little connection there. Smooth this out. And again, smoothing these coils together. So you may be wondering why I'm making a bowl with a rounded bottom, which is a little different, it's a little unusual. And I was inspired by my favorite coffee cup made by one of my favorite artists, Bertie Boone, who is known for these lovely cups that she makes with these round bottoms. So I just find it beautiful, aesthetically beautiful, and just sort of delightful to use. Whenever we have visitors, I actually hide her cups in a china cabinet because I don't want anyone touching them. I'm so afraid they're gonna break. I have tons of beautiful handmade coffee mugs. I can use those, but not my Bertie Boone. So this bowl is sort of an homage to Bertie Boone in that cup. I'm going to smooth out this mess here. And again, inside. I'm really like going down to that first layer and trying to pull some clay up and really smoothing this out. And I'm going fairly quickly here, but if you're new to coil building, I would say take a little more extra time, because as I've learned, there's nothing worse than putting all of the labor into a really nice coil piece, rolling out all those coils, creating these beautiful walls, and then later at some later stage, finding the coils pulling apart or little cracks running around where the joints didn't quite match up well, weren't quite blended enough. So while you're learning, take your time. When people say, oh, pottery, it's so relaxing, this is what they're talking about. Just sort of sitting with the piece, smoothing it. You know, it's all a process, and you don't want to rush it. You want to enjoy. Yeah, see, there's like a gap right there. Let's fix that up. And then, again, take the rib. And when you smooth, you might spot some areas that seem problematic. You know, that, can't tell if that's joined properly right there. You know, so use your eyes, use your sense of touch to see, like, does that feel right? Does that feel like there might be a little gap there? Okay, so I have something that's starting to resemble a bowl here. I'm gonna put on 2 more layers, make it a little higher. This bowl is not big enough for the amount of ramen that I like to eat. And you always want to keep in mind too that pieces shrink. Usually 10 to 12% is pretty standard for mid-range clay that fires around cone 5, cone 6. So you want to keep that in mind. You always want to make some stuff a little bigger than what you actually want to end up with. Okay, so I'm going to pause this video, finish making this bowl, and then I will show you what it looks like when I'm finished.